Okay, my mathematicians, so I wanted to do a quick answer key on your exit ticket for linear regression. So here is the first question. So what I'm going to pull out from this question, the only thing that you really need to pull out is that this is a linear function. So if you know it's a linear function, you know that when you do for the correlation coefficient, you're going to want to put it in that y equals mx plus b. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this table and you are going to add it into Desmos. Now, the only adjustment that you need to make is you're not going for your x, you're not going to put in 2011, 2012. Okay, remember, because here this is year 0. This is where we started, our initial year, y-intercept, right? And then I'm going to name this as year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and year 6 when we add it into the table. So notice when I get it into Desmos, I put it in my table, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in that equation to create my line of best fit. And that is this equation here. So I typed in y sub 1, my tilde sign, and then my mx sub 1 plus b. Remember, the sub 1 is telling me telling Desmos to pull all that information from this table here. And since I knew that this was a linear equation, this is why, notice it's very similar to the y equals mx plus b. And then Desmos has already told me that, well, your slope is here. That's your slope. We know it's negative decreasing. Here is my y-intercept. And then what we're really looking for is our correlation coefficient. So that is our negative 0.09448. Okay, remember our correlation coefficient, it goes anywhere from -1 to +1 with 0 in the middle. The closer that we get to that -1 is a strong negative correlation. The closer that we get to that +1 is a strong positive. So since here we have a correlation of 0.09 on the negative, let's just say we're about right here, our answer is going to be this one. It is a negative correlation. And since it is closer to that 0 mark, we know that it's weak. Here is our next question. Okay, same thing. Which function best models the data in the table? So you're going to go ahead and put this into your Desmos, add your table into your Desmos. The only difference here is I do not need to change anything on my x values, so I'm just going to label my x values from 1 to 7. On the right-hand side is what my table looks like. I just transferred the table from my problem into Desmos, and then I went ahead and I asked for my line of best fit because I knew this is linear. I have y sub 1 in that tilde sign, mx sub 1 plus my b. And it just asks which function. So it's asking to create the equation. So here I know this is my slope. So I'm looking for a negative slope of 41. And then my y-intercept is at 337.286. So don't get caught up that the x's, these are all written as our b first. Don't get caught up in that still. So we're going to look for our x at negative 41. So you can tell that the D is not it, the C is not it because the slopes don't match. Okay, and so the only one that fits here is our B. So on our next problem, we have an experiment with the relationship between the speed of cars in the miles per gallon. Now, it's very important that we make sure we are always reading our problems, because what I'm noticing here that it is a quadratic. So remember what quadratic means. It's going to have that parabola. It either goes kind of up and over or down and over. So we do not use that y equals mx plus b. That is not standard form of a quadratic. Remember that quadratic is that ax squared plus bx plus c equation. So we need to pay attention, make sure that we know, is this linear, is this quadratic, is this exponential. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to go back into my Desmos and I'm going to plug in my table. So you'll notice on my Desmos, I just took the equation, the table from my problem. I plugged it into my Desmos here because I had already made note that this was a quadratic. To create my line of best fit, I told Desmos I needed it in this format. And then from here, I just created the equation in order to solve my problem. It asked me what is the best estimate at 65 miles a gallon. So I knew my X. Okay, I was needing to look to see what is that miles per gallon when this, say, was 65. So I went back and I took, here's my A value, I plugged it in, and notice there is my 65 plus my B value. There's my B value in its entirety, and then 65. And then I went and there's my C value. And I received an answer of approximately, is at 27.87, and I just rounded that up to 27.9. So here's another example as we get close to summer, person diving into a pool, swimming. So once again, I'm going to read the problem in its entirety. I know that it wants to be which data can be modeled with quadratic. So there's the key right there. I want to make sure I recognize quadratic. So I know I'm looking for that formula of ax squared plus bx plus c. So I'm going to go ahead, open up my Desmos, and I am going to plug this entire table into my Desmos calculator. Now, when I do so, okay, under the next line, I'm going to go ahead and put in, having Desmos create this line of best fit. Okay, so I have my y sub 1, my tilde sign ax sub 1 squared plus bx plus c. And notice that Desmos gives me the information. They tell me that my parameters, my a value is approximately 0.26. My B value is approximately negative 3.11. And for my C value, I have 0. So my A value, I'm going to go up to my answer keys. Okay, I have F, G, H, and J. So I know right now H and J both start out at 0.26 x squared. That's my A value. My B value is attached to my X. Okay, so they are both making with my B value. And then my C value is 0. So the only one that could make sense in this situation would be H. And last one here, because I never want one of our equations to feel left out. Okay, once again, start the process just like I normally would. Read the problem in its entirety, modeled by, did you see that? Exponential. Okay, so I want to make sure that we are asking Desmos to model for us a line of best fit of an exponential function. So once again, I'm going to start by putting this equation, or I'm sorry, this table into my Desmos calculator. Now that you've typed your table into your Desmos calculator, one thing you do need to remember that exponential, remember exponential functions, that standard form is that f of x, you have that a times b raised to that x power. So when I go over into my Desmos, notice what I typed in. I went ahead and I plugged in, here's what I wanted for Desmos to create my line of best fit, my Y of sub 1, my tilde sign AB, I raised it to the X power, and I made sure that I put that sub 1 to my X power. Now, the only thing I also want you to do here is on your Desmos, so you can get the exact numbers, I want you to type in or click that box that says log mode. Okay, go ahead and click that box. Hopefully I made that. Click that box. And then you'll see that your parameters have popped up. Here is your A. And here is your B value. So now we're looking for our A value of 46797 and our B value of 0.92 approximately. So we know C is not it, A is not it, and the only one that could make sense here is our B. I hope that this video helped. As always, any questions, come to Mav Academy or tutoring after school.